Good afternoon, Manitoba Female Hockey League fans, and welcome to another edition of the Manitoba Female Hockey League podcast. In this week's episode's case, the return of this show ended up missing last week due to some unforeseen circumstances, but glad to be back here on Friday of Thanksgiving weekend coming up. It should be a good one. Happy Thanksgiving to all of our viewers that are tuning into this one. MFHL game day coming tomorrow for us as well as some junior hockey games in the mix this weekend. So yeah, we're gonna be busy. We can't wait to be doing this, but also can't wait to be spending time with family when that opportunity will arise this weekend. And I hope that everyone does get the chance to spend time and get to see their family because this is one of the times to do so, right? The time to be thankful and family being so huge and huge for all the players in this league. Thank you to, all the parents and everyone that, make those sacrifices for those players to be able to play this great sport. And what a great start to the season it has been here in the league. This show brought to you by Terrico, Make Fasteners and Tools, Goaltenders, and Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, by the way. As for how things have started off in this league, in terms of the standings, it's the Winnipeg Avros on top after week one. Not undefeated, but close as they fell in a shootout to the Winnipeg Ice on opening night. By the way, highlights on that game coming up later on in this edition of the show. But the current undefeated teams here after week one, even though it's early, the Wildcats, the Ice, and the Selects. The Hawks, the Capitals, and Lightning getting off to rough starts. As you can see there, all 0-2. And as for the Brandon Wheat Kings, only playing one game in their first ever regular season game at the U18 female AAA level. But as for the Winnipeg Avros, we will show you some stats. They have high-powered offensive totals right now. As you can see there, Callie Lavalley, rookie, AP'd for the Winnipeg Ice last season, as you'll hear me and my guest talk about her later on in this episode. But Rio Pierre leading the way, in assists. Celine Wozni also in there. Pierre also tied for second in goals with Ivy Perkin, who her and Reese Schutte have been big time to start this season. Waldner as well, a defenseman for the Westman Wildcats, leading the way for them in the assist category. And as for the point leaders, it's Pierre, followed by Perkin, Callie Lavalley in that mix as well, and also Madeline Sylvester in there with a shutout performance. Tomes as well as Stone with shutouts to start off the year, and Kylie Hack and Dina Plett both starting off strong this season. Plett being a rookie, she won goaltender of the week honors in week one. So did Rio Pierre, announced by the league earlier this week. So congratulations to them. And speaking of Rio Pierre's team, the Winnipeg Avros, her head coach, Ashley Van Aglen, joins the show as the only guest this week to talk about the start to the year, as well as reflecting a bit on last season and, what the start to this year has been like here on the MFHL podcast for episode 4, season 2, presented by Make Fasteners and Tools, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Terrico, and Goaltenders. Enjoy, everybody, this interview with Avros head coach Ashley Van Aglen here on the podcast. Coach of the Winnipeg Avros, and her cat joining this edition of the show, and Ashley Van Aglen. Of course, her team battling with the Winnipeg Ice in the season opener last Wednesday, losing in a shootout, coming back with 2 strong, big victories. Ashley, quite a start to the season. How's the whole team been dealing with, the chaos as things start to open up here?
Yeah, I mean it's gone pretty well. We had a pretty busy preseason, so I think in the end we ended up playing like 10 preseason games between 2 tournaments and a exhibition game with St. Mary's. But um yeah, chaos is kind of what we're built for. I think you know that it's a long season, lots of tournaments. And it's not bad to get it going early and get the kids used to the schedule. Yeah, opening game was super fun. Hockey for All Center was rocking. Both sides brought lots of fans, and apparently lots of people tuned in live. So thank you again for doing that free of charge for them. And yeah, I think the jitters and the excitement got a little too much of us, but hats off to the Ice. They got a really good team there. They're young and they're fast and they're aggressive and they've got a lot of talent there. So.
Yeah, and happy we can of course provide the service of games that we do here on the network. And we were really pumped to be a part of the Winnipeg Avers versus Winnipeg Ice rivalry for the first time ever on our network since we didn't broadcast one of those matchups last year. But another one goal game, like you said, there's a lot of intensity and jitters in that one, given that was the opening game. But taking that as a learning experience, knowing that you could stay with a team that's won the league the past two seasons that closely in the first game must give this team a lot of confidence moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have a lot of grads. It sounds like that's been a little bit of or not grads, sorry, returning players, and it sounds like it's been a little bit of the topic of conversation around the rink. So with only four new players, obviously there's some players that are returning that, were in games last year where we were up by 3 or 4 goals against the Ice and then we blew it on ourselves. So I think for them it's more mental for us right now. Like we feel like we have what we need to have in order to be in all those games and possibly get on the other side of those wins. But they got to execute, and we definitely talked a lot about our first period and how things didn't really go our direction and why. And a lot of that was to do with our own play, and we just weren't ready for them. And granted, again, very good team. We hadn't seen that kind of competition for a while, but we readjusted, and I thought our second period was a lot better, but then we fell asleep again. I don't think we got a shot for like 12 minutes in the third period. And then we came alive in overtime, and I thought we had more opportunity in overtime, but we're not playing 60 minutes of hockey right now. And even in our big wins, like with the Central Plains win, the Pembina Valley win, it's not 60 minutes of hockey, it's 50 or 45, or we tend to get comfortable, and we dug ourselves a hole. I thought the girls did a good job to kind of claw our way back in that game against the Ice, but it was too little, too late. And if we want to compete with them and we want to take down a champion, then we got to play like champions. And they've been there and they have that experience, and they've got girls that are coming out of U15 that have won the championship, and there's lots of talent there. So we got to be on our best game every time we play them, and we weren't our best.
Like you mentioned, two big wins from this team. Afterwards, the home opener against the Central Plains Capitals, an 8-0 victory. Huge second and third period there to open things up, and then a huge 10-1 victory on Saturday in Morden against Pembina Valley. Obviously, like you said, this team's still not playing a full 60 minutes. But what are the things that you like, I guess, besides the big score, the big wins, but just from this team's overall game from the past two wins?
Yeah, you know what? We're starting to see a lot of selfless play, so we're really moving the puck well. And one of our top scorers with 11 points, but if you look at those points, I mean, she had 7 assists, so she's looking to distribute pucks to other members on her line, other members of the team, and she's not the only one. There's lots of opportunity there to move the puck around, and I think by getting into space and using each other, that was really huge for us. And we struggled last year, as you know, in the last couple of months to put a puck in the back of the net. So hopefully the well doesn't run dry too early here. But we also spent Thursday's practice doing a lot of shooting and scoring because we had been going pretty hard. So yeah, we spent Thursday's practice on a lot of shooting and scoring. It seemed to have worked. And we spent a lot of time on our special teams lately. And our power play is really moving the puck well. And we even had a shorthanded goal on Saturday. So it seems to be helping. And the girls get along really, really well. The culture of the team right now is it's vibing. It's a good feel. They're all happy for each other right now. And when someone's scoring, and you don't always get that. Sometimes there's rivalry and competition amongst your teammates. So the selfless game is definitely a huge piece, and being excited for each other's success.
Yeah, for sure. And that selfless factor, it plays such a huge part of a team's success as the season goes along. But I mean, in terms of this team, you spoke about the culture, and every season there's a new slogan that's picked. This year's it's Fly Together. I ask it every year, but I'm gonna ask again, why this slogan exactly for this year's Average Squad?
The girls picked it. Like I said, we only got four new players, so 13 returning players who have been together for a while. Um, we are a Avro Fighting Jet, and we do need to fly and work hard every time we're on the ice, and we need to do that together, or we're not going to win. So we need all 17 and three, four coaches, putting in what they can to help that plane fly. And it's kind of a take off the jets, rise together, which people don't know. So the whole flying together is just setting sail and everyone working together to get the plane off the ground kind of thing.
Yeah, and from what we've seen so far, the Sabres team can sure fly on the ice. Like you said, a lot of returning players, not that much turnover to this year's roster. Last year, there was obviously some experience, but a bit of a younger team. Obviously, those returning players that are coming back come back. Yeah, Adeline Nolgren over from the Eastman Selects as well as getting a big time rookie, and I'm just trying to find her name here.
Callie
Um,
Lavalley and Leah
Kelly
Clausen.
Lavalley, Kelly
Yeah.
Lavalley, so it is. So a lot of skill on this year's team. How would you describe this year's team compared to last year? Is the experience the biggest thing?
I think we're last year I thought we were pretty rounded. Like we had three lines that could go. And um this year I feel like we're even deeper. I don't know if that makes sense. We're deep on the back end, right, with only one new defenseman. Moving a D up to forward. Kelsey Dinez has been a rock star up front for us, playing a new position there and just really contributing for the team. So I think we're a little bit more rounded. We have two awesome goaltenders returning, both of which will be relied on heavily this year. So I just think from the goal line out, if we work as hard as we need to for 60 minutes, I think we're going to be tough to beat. But I think if we take shifts and periods off, maybe not so much. But I do feel like, yeah, we're a little bit more rounded this year in terms of I feel like that offensive threat's going to come from more than just a couple people. As we've already seen, we've got, everybody contributing from the back end out. We had a defenseman like Avery Shortridge this past weekend, 3 assists, 2 goals, right? Evie West, I think, is already at 10 points for the season. That's with preseason too. So yeah, there's been lots of puck movement and just everyone working together. The rookies are fitting in really well. They're two top-notch rookies that were top of their class last year. I think Leah Clausen was probably the best U15 defenseman in the Winnipeg League last year. That's just my own personal opinion. And Kelly Lavalley with the experience of APing with the ice and being at that Western Championship against Saskatchewan. Like she brings, I know she's a rookie, but she brings that experience too. We're just working on trying to figure out if we're going to have her in the middle or on the wall and who she's going to play with to help her in that situation.
Yeah, and I remember watching Cali AP for the Ice last season and thinking whichever one of these Winnipeg teams gets her is going to be one happy team at that. And it turns out she becomes a Winnipeg Avro this season. But you spoke about Evie West. Of course, she takes over as captain this season for Sienna Price. Last year, seems like she's a natural leader on the ice. I can't speak to her leadership off the ice because never met Evie, but seems like it was a confident pick from this team in picking her. The decision why to pick Evie as the next captain.
Yeah, I mean, Evie did wear a letter last year. She was an A for us last year, so she already kind of was in that leadership role a bit last year. But she's a kid that I guess everyone kind of flocks to. And you tend to get one or two of those players every year. And, if people want to talk, they go to Evie. If, Evie's there to be goofy with them, she kind of like organizes things off the ice. She's hardworking. She gets it done in our team workouts. She's hard in the gym, hard on the ice, hold her teams accountable. Like she's up and down the bench, almost like a fourth coach, talking to players. She understands the game. And even in practice, like if someone doesn't know what's going on, she's making sure to talk to them, make sure they know what they're doing. But yeah, she brings character, man. She's a great kid. And there's not a bad thing I can say about her. Yeah, she's just an all-around good person. And I think that goes a long way when you take that good person and put them into sport. And she just makes the people around her better, both as a human and as a hockey player.
Yeah, and that's great to hear to have someone on the team that the team looks up to, like Evie wearing this year's C for the Winnipeg Avros, of course, but we're gonna touch on it one last time, and then we're gonna leave it in the past after.
Oh God.
Because I don't think you like hearing about it very much, but I think given that there's so many returning players from last year's team to this year, and the goal is obviously to advance further into the playoffs, I think this is of note to talk about how this team has kind of learned, or how you've learned, or what you took away from last year's collapse as the season went along. Of course, this team was near the top of the standings, then went down a bit as the season went along. Had a 2-0 lead against the Chiefs, ending up blowing it. I feel like on the mental, that's got to be tough. But just looking back at it and reminiscing what you truly learned from it as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. We were burnt out. So the demise of the Avros kind of started in the Regina tournament, Notre Dame Hounds tournament. We went in on a win streak and we did well. Like we made it to the bronze medal game, but we had lost our semifinal game and then lost that bronze medal game and then came home and played 7 games in 9 days. So we actually played 14 hockey games in 16 days, which was absolutely insane and hard to believe that that even happened. But yet again, we reeled back this year and we've decided not to attend that tournament in hopes to have a little bit more downtime. We also get some downtime here in November because of the national championship. So we didn't have anybody that made Toba last year. So we continued on with some games. And this year with 2 players away, obviously the league is shutting down. So the girls will be shut down for 2 weekends in November. And then that Manny Schwartz tournament is usually that first week of December. And so we had been going pretty hard last year with 2 tournaments. And then, November was packed strong for us because it was the one month where we weren't traveling for showcases. And then to go into that tournament, play 5 games at like real hockey, 320s, like not going to tournaments and playing 12, 15-minute periods. 320s coming back really banged up and playing against teams like Saskatoon and Edmonton. And yeah, really getting thrown around a little bit. It weighs on the body, but it also weighs on the psyche. And we started to lose some confidence in our own abilities, confidence in our teammates. So that was a big thing coming back. And then playing those 7 games in 9 days, heading into the Christmas break, just was like we had nothing left. So
Yeah.
definitely did evaluate, reevaluate, and reevaluate again, and it's still there, and we still think about it. But the first step was taking us out of that showcase. Um, we still have somehow ended up with 7 league games in 9 days before Christmas, but we did remove ourselves from that showcase. So that'll save us five games and hopefully a little bit more energy. And yeah, when it comes to playoffs, I thought we had a good first couple of games, and then everything outside of the rink got the best of us in terms of like actions and how we were being treated and social media and just I guess you can say just experience in the arena with everything that's going on around us. We did face some adversity with certain things that don't need to be talked about right now.
Yeah.
But that's something that our players, took to heart and really struggled with some of the comments that were being made. And I think it got into our heads. Yellowhead came out and they fought hard. And in the end, they were the better hockey team, but they also knew how to get in our heads and they did a good job of it.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point you bring up about, that outside noise, right? Because, decades ago, 2 decades ago, even a decade ago, there wasn't that much noise as much as there is now on social media. Now you got us who are covering the league and all these other media outlets that may be interested in individuals, and definitely does add another element of difficulty to going out there and focusing on just performing if you get caught up on looking there. But obviously, this team this year, a lot more experience than last year. Do you feel that experience from around the room this year, more maturity at that?
I do feel like more people have a voice in the dressing room. And I do feel like there's like maybe a little bit more, because a lot of times it's usually just your captains talking, right? And I do feel like this year, like everyone feels comfortable talking. And I don't know if that's just from the group dynamic and what they've done in the preseason and how they've hung out or whatever they've done to create that environment. But I do feel like when we're talking in the dressing room, like everyone's dialed in. Like we don't have to sit and wait for anyone to stop taping their shin pads or like, get ready to listen. It's like everyone's dialed in as soon as we come in the room. It's quiet. They're asking good questions. And sometimes people are scared to ask questions. I'm not sure why, but there's lots of good questions being asked and they want to learn. And yeah, that's the main thing is like they want to learn. So with those questions and like how to get better and what can I do to get better, and then everybody kind of just supporting each other, that's been really good. So with only a small group graduating last year, they did a great job. I think they maybe found it hard to have that communication with first and second year players, just because they were also the group that was still coming out of that first season of chaos.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, for this group, they'll be back in action, put to the test against two top end teams in this league, the Yellowhead Chiefs at home on Friday night, and then heading to Surrey, Manitoba to take on the Westman Wildcats on Saturday. Obviously, you know these two teams pretty well. Had a chance to coach against Derek Tibbetts many times in the past. Lots to look forward to this weekend, but how excited are you to see this team getting back to play, but seeing the competition hypothetically on paper stepping up given the opponents?
Yeah, I mean, the league looks like it's going to be a horse race for those kind of like top four teams. And Derek's a great coach. Like he's probably one of the best tactical coaches in the league. He's been around the game a long time. He adjusts, he knows systems, he knows how to beat systems. So he's always tough to coach against. He's also, he's got his girls fired up all the time. They're super aggressive and hard to play against. So looking forward to a rematch there for sure, just with the way the season ended and kind of this, like I said, the social media afterwards. So I know our girls are pretty fired up. And then they always have a good team, right? They're always going to work hard. They're always going to grind you, and they just never go away. And I don't know what goes on out there, but they're feeding in like just player after player out of their U15 program. So whatever they're doing in their grassroots, it's working because Yellowhead's always a contender and a fighter for those top four spots. And then going into Surus on Saturday with Westman. Yeah, I mean Westman's got another good team as well. I know they lost their goalie to Brandon, but um, those girls that are there, like talking to some of their parents, I know like in the beginning, the preseason maybe didn't look super hopeful, but they always find a way. And even last year, right? They started off middle of the pack and they found a way to the top. So they always find a way to do it and get it done. And I'm sure they're going to find a way again. So just be excited to play against some of their players like Hillhorst and all those girls again. It's nice seeing them. So
No, for sure. And a lot of skill at that out there that'll be on display between all these teams this weekend that the Avers will be playing against. Ashley, it's always great getting to catch up with you and talk about team that you love and coach in the Winnipeg Avers. Best of luck to this group of girls and the coaching staff heading forward this weekend and into the season. And have a great Thanksgiving as well as Thanksgiving weekends upon us too.
thanks, Graham. Sorry for the rasp. It's been a lot. It's
No.
been a lot around the rink and in the gym. So
And Ashley Van Aglen, I mean, the voice being raspy, I mean, she's been hard at work with this team. Or she's just, worn out from everything she does. Busy one, Ashley Van Aglen is, from teaching to coaching and putting in her time. Her Avros, though, benefiting from a really good start to the season. 2-0-1, their only loss, of course, coming to the Winnipeg Ice in a shootout in opening night last Wednesday. The Winnipeg Ice, of course, going to be back in action along with the rest of the 9 teams in the MFHL this weekend. We will get to the schedule later on in this episode, but coming up next, we're going to be going into highlights, taking you through a bit of what happened from our broadcast through week 1 of the MFHL season here on episode 4, season 2 of the MFHL podcast on this Friday afternoon, brought to you by Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, Terrico Goaltenders, and Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools. Welcome back to the MFHL podcast. It was an exciting opening weekend in the league. It started off with 2 crosstown rivals battling against each other, or how they would phrase it, crosstown rivals slash friends. I'm quoting that from the Winnipeg Ice social media. I forget where I saw it on Instagram, X, wherever it was. It was an entertaining game, and it started off with, the Winnipeg Ice with the lead. Winnipeg, the Abros, that is, ends up battling back, and it was Ben Little on the call. Red River College creative communication student. So I stumble through my words there, but yeah, he was fantastic on what I learned. As he said it in the game, his first broadcast ever. I think he did a great job. But going into the highlights for the Winnipeg Ice, working it around on a power play, Chloe Nicholas would tip home the shot of Cassie Carvalho, second year Winnipeg Ice forward, and it would be 1-0 for the Ice. 2-1 would be the score. 3-1 as the Ice scored early in the second period, Avery Lazarenko. But as the Avros would work it around, it would be Jenna Turner finding the stick of Ella Speechley, as Speechley would deflect it home, and the Avros wouldn't be done there.
And who else? Oh, what an opportunity there from Pierre. Puck still loose, they score! The first line does it again.
Ben Little on the call as Celine Wozni puts home the rebound created by Callie Lavalley. As this game, we would not find a winner in the late period in the third or OT, as Chloe Delacouille in the shootout would break the tie. First score to score there, coming in a nice backhand forehand deke, leaves Rio Pierre up next, looking to extend this game, tie things up in the shootout, but it would be Bailey Grunwald sticking with it and making the save, as the Winnipeg Ice would take home their fifth straight victory against the Winnipeg Avros in regulation play. The Avros comeback bid falling just short in that one. But what a battle between these two teams on opening night. If we take a look at the shots, it was 32-27 in favor of the Ice. They had most of the pressure in that third period, controlled most of the play. But when this Avros team is on their game, they're on their game. And this is a team, as we showed it, looking at the standings. Again, 21 goals for, only 4 against, as they had a shutout against the Central Plains Capitals on Friday night in their home opener, and then cruising against Pembina Valley with a 10-1 victory. But Winnipeg, the Ice, they're still going to be a threat, and they're still going to be contenders. They could very well be the favorite heading into the playoffs by the end of the season. Yes, they lose some big players, but Eugene Kaminsky finds a way to get this team to get their game rolling, and this team hasn't even played that many games, and Eugene hasn't had to do that much work as of yet in terms of coaching. They're still going through their process in terms of, going through the systems and getting their players up to speed with how they want them to execute as this season goes along. But you can see the natural talent out there for this Winnipeg Ice team, even though they don't have Callie Lavalley, who's on the Winnipeg Avros. They got some good young talent coming in. Was pretty impressed with some of the returnees. Chloe Delacouille had a huge opening night. Isabella Mann has been really strong to open this season. And Chloe Nicholas, someone that, haven't talked about that much as of yet, was a part of a dynamic duo for a while last year with Stephanie Jacob. They get split up, and Chloe is a threat on another line. Like, we saw her impact on that opening night. And Bailey Grunwald, even though we didn't show her in the top 5 goaltenders right now, because by the stats we went off of, which was more so wins, start off, and she does have wins, but her numbers not as strong as of yet as those other goaltenders, but she's someone that I think could get better and better as the season rolls along. As for the Eastman Selects, they started off their season on Saturday night last weekend in Niverville at home against the Central Plains Capitals. Central Plains was coming off of a game the night before where they lost 8-0 to the Winnipeg Avers. Looking to do a bit better in this one. It wasn't meant to be for Central Plains, as we throw it to the only goal we're going to show here, but Eastman working it in the Central Plains Capital zone onto the stick of Danielle Hepner, who buries it past Elise Denbo, last year's top goaltender in the MFHL. Eastman would cruise in this one, winning 6-0 to secure their first victory of the season. And just trying to pull up the stats here. The MFHL has changed up their website and quite interesting. I think that it's honestly a great layout, but it's going to take some time to, toggle through these games and stuff, right? But yeah, we had a pleasure of calling this one. The official final stats were it was actually 5-0, sorry, for Eastman, not 6-0, but 44 shots to 11, 44 to 11 shots on goal for Eastman in their favor. And if you take a look at their goal scorers, Veda Rigo coming over from the Interlake Lightning this season, playing with the Select. She was a big time, having two in this one. And then you look at new players making impacts, like Caitlin Schroeder, who ended up scoring the fourth goal of the game here. And then the returnees, the young returnee and Shan Scott Cook scoring the fifth goal. Danielle Hepner, though, starting this one off strong with that goal you saw. Addison Tomes didn't have to do very much in this game. But when she had to be on, she was on. And Eastman overall just hammed Central Plains in their own end. Central Plains this season is a younger team. It's a team that only has 3 graduating players. So I think with Ferdy Nelson as head coach, with the experience he has, I think that this team is going to get better as the season goes along. But it's going to be a process. And they started off with going up against 2 teams that on paper look like they could be competing for a championship this season. But when we talk about this Eastman Selects team, they have so much to like up front when you're talking about players like Danielle Hepner, Sophia Heidinger coming back, that physical presence you have in Shan Scott Cook and Isabella Carrier coming back. Even though this team lost a player like Ginger Fast, and you lose a player too like Adeline Nolgren, you still have players like Lexi Remillard on the back end who is steady and looking to take that next step, right? And so many other pieces there. And you still got a great goaltender in Addison Tomes there who looking to, I think, take that even further next step this season coming up. So Eastman, even though, Todd Mason isn't the head coach there anymore, Laird Leluc takes that position. And I think that with this year's group, Laird Leluc being familiar with them, and the coach and philosophy, I'm assuming, going to be staying pretty much the same. Eastman coming off of their best regular season in franchise history with 19 wins, losing 4 games to the Westman Wildcats. Some good experience coming back this season, and I think this could be a team that could very well be challenging for, a spot potentially. Become, playoff time, at least get into the Final Four. I think they got that potential again to do some real damage this season. Coming up next, we're going to be going into just some preview of this upcoming weekend in the MFHL as we go into Thanksgiving weekend here in early October here in 2024. You're watching the MFHL Podcast on G-Show Productions on gshow.ca. Stick around for more coming up next. Welcome back to the MFHL Podcast, everybody. It's been a fun Friday here. A busy Friday for us coming up as we will be broadcasting a junior hockey game tonight for the MMJHL, Transcone Railer Express versus the Charleswood Hawks. Also got the MMJHL Podcast, Episode 5, Season 2, coming out at 3 p.m. today. So, got to get ready for that soon. Also, we got MFHL hockey on Saturday night, which we're going to get into in a moment, a game on Sunday as well in the MMJHL to wrap up our week. But it's going to be exciting, and I think that's become one of my favorite words because both these leagues that we're covering this season once again have a lot of potential to offer so much great entertainment value throughout the season. And I think the games coming up this weekend in the MFHL are going to offer that, as the Winnipeg Avers face off against the Yellowhead Chiefs. Yellowhead looking to get back into the win column after losing their first game of the season against the Winnipeg Ice last Sunday. For the Winnipeg Avers, they're looking to extend their win streak to 2. Still haven't lost in regulation, of course, but they do have one little blemish on the record to start things off. But even though these early season games aren't that important, I guess, in the big picture, long term, I think that this is a good test for two teams that have been contenders throughout the years here going up against each other for the first time. Ashley talked about it. Derek Tibbetts, really good tactical head coach. She's a really great head coach herself, so that's going to be quite a coaching battle tonight. In Winnipeg at Seven Oaks, Brandon will be traveling to Surrey to take on the Westman Wildcats, and for the Eastman Selects, they'll be on the road in Stonewall to take on the Interlake Lightning. As for Saturday's action, we'll have our first look at the Yellowhead Chiefs this season, as we'll be in Niverville for MFHL Game Day number 3 this season. It's going to be, I think, a highly entertaining game and Eastman's biggest test of the season on paper. I think that when you take a look at the Yellowhead Chiefs, Kirby Gray, as we showed, top 5 in goals so far. She can do a lot of damage. This is a team that's coached really well, has some good returning players, also has, rookies coming in, as Ashley Van Aglen said, from what's been a pretty steady and good U15 program. So I think that's going to be Eastman's biggest test of the year, because you're going up against a team that's going to have really good offensive talent, a team that's going to make you work throughout the game and is going to push you potentially to your limit. And for Eastman, can they maintain that strong play we've seen them play with so far? They did face some adversity in week 1 against the Pembina Valley Hawks, down 2-0, came back scoring 6 unanswered. Gonna have to be a lot better throughout the game if they're gonna want to beat a team like the Yellowhead Chiefs. We'll get to look at that on Saturday. The Interlake Lightning will be in Morden to take on the Pembina Valley Hawks. The Winnipeg Avros taking on the Westman Wildcats, and I think for the Winnipeg Avros, that's going to be a big test coming up, right? Ivy Perkin and Reese Schutte have been fantastic to start off the season. Yeah, even though this team has lost some good pieces to Brandon, I think that that Westman is still going to be that team that's going to be among the contenders this season. They always are, and you can't really count them out. And when you do, they kind of make you eat your words, right? Ivy Perkin, she's been fantastic. We'll get a look at the top 2-point getters heading into week 2 in that matchup. As for the Sunday matchup coming up, the matchups in the league, there'll only be 3. Yellowhead taking on Interlake in Lendar, Pembina Valley taking on Central Plains in Portage, and the Westman Wildcats finishing off their weekend in Niverville, taking on the Eastman Selects. And yeah, I guess as for the Winnipeg Ice, they do have a weekend off. They're the only team that isn't in action this weekend in the MFHL. So the defending champs, in terms of when they'll be in action next, as we take a look here. They won't be back in action until the 25th, as they'll be taking on, just taking a look here, the Interlake Lightning in Stonewall. That game will be at 8 p.m. on October 25th, as 3 games will be on the schedule for then. But yeah, mentioned that Rio Pierre won Player of the Week in Week 1, and that Gina Plett won Goaltender of the Week in the MFHL. As for some other news in this league, big congratulations to veteran defenseman, senior defenseman, and captain for the Westman Wildcats in Callie Hillhorse on committing to the University of Regina to play for the Cougars following her season in Westman. Congratulations to Callie. Really good defenseman for Westman. Really adds to how strong that decor is once again this season. And I think for this Wildcats team, you know, they're going to see some big things out of her this year as she gets ready to set sail off to, well, not set sail, as that's kind of dramatic and doesn't really fit, but as she gets ready to set off to the University of Regina to play Cougars hockey for her collegiate career coming up next year, or university career. So congratulations to Callie, and we'll update you on everything to do with the MFHL in terms of commitments, player and goaltenders of the week, and much more this year here on the podcast. Yeah, this is going to do it for this week's edition of the show. We'll be back next Friday here on gshow Productions on gshow.ca. Thank you to Ashley Van Aglen for joining this edition of the MFHL podcast and being the guest. Thank you to you, the viewer, for tuning in to another edition of this podcast. Details on, you know, who's going to be involved in terms of who will be featured as the guests for next week will be released on our social media coming up near the start of, you know, next week. And yeah, that's going to be the goal. If it isn't, it's going to probably be released like Thursday, a day before the episode at the latest. So keep an eye on our social media pages as well as on our website under our events tab. And yeah, special thanks to our sponsors as always in McKenna Fasteners and Tools, Terraco, Can Central Sports Cards and Memorabilia, and Goaltenders for supporting Manitoba Female Hockey League coverage here on G-Show Productions, and for supporting us as a network. In terms of what we got in store still for this week, we're not done yet. Like mentioned, the Yellowhead Chiefs coming into Niverville tomorrow to take on the Eastman Selects in the MFHL regular season play as we keep things rolling here heading into Thanksgiving weekend. 5:30 is going to be game time. A pregame show coverage for us will start just after 5:20 tomorrow, and we will have puck drop and the national anthem and all that stuff beforehand. And all 3 periods, maybe even overtime and a shootout as well, if it takes us there. Have a wonderful Friday, everybody. Until next week, next Friday, we'll see you then. Take care. Have a great Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving once again, everybody. We'll see you then.